creator? Xiefeng. First of all, we have to admit that the Bible is the accomplishment of the Ephraim which loyally records the Jewish history, explains the relationship between the God, devil, and human beings to the furthest degree, and gives the direction the human beings should take. The Bible, the Quran, the Buddhist scripture, and the Tao Te Ching are the eternal and effective treasures and collections of human wisdom, teaching us how to behave and develop into the higher level of life space. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The first sentence in the Bible did tell the truth. But the things covered by the cassock may not be the holy things. And the people wearing the sacred cassock may not be the abbot. The problem with the Bible is that the God it introduces is not the genuine greatest creator. We have known that the greatest creator has the 8 features. The greatest creator is unique and exclusive, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, merciful, supremely powerful, and intelligent. The wisdom of the greatest creator is revealed through its creation of universe order, designing of life program, and knowing of the past and the future. Then, does the God in the Bible have the above-mentioned 8 features? Let's explain this with examples. The betrayal of Adam and Eve. According to the Genesis, Adam and Eve were instigated to eat the fruit on the wisdom tree forbidden by the God in the Bible. Because they have violated the order of the God in the Bible, they were repelled out of the Eden. It indicates that the God in the Bible is A, incompetent, B, improvident, and C, unjust. He is incompetent because he was a loser at the beginning. The first couple of human he created betrayed him. So can we still say it is supremely powerful? Can we still believe in a person who often loses? The Great Flood had killed most of the human beings. What happened to them afterwards? They still wouldn't listen to his words. The Moses 10 Commandments are actually the directives of the God in the Bible. Can you tell me how many of them are obeyed by the human being? Actually, not even one. The God in the Bible seemed to know nothing about how to control the human beings. The only measure it takes is to voice warnings and threats against the human beings. Thousands of years has passed. The human beings remain the same. Is there no means to control the human beings? Or is there some other force constraining this almighty God? If this is the case, is this God not sole or exclusive? For thousands of years, the human beings have been violating his order. What is he waiting for? The God in the Bible is improvident because he didn't know that Adam and Eve were going to betray him or the development trend of what he had created. Is this God, who is not able to predict the future or the past, still reliable? If the Earth is going to get out of the solar system and this God knows nothing about it, how can he save the human beings? How can this God administer the deities, Buddha, celestial beings, and devils when he found it difficult to control the human beings? How can he manage the spacious universe? The God in the Bible is unjust because it cannot tell wrong from the right and because it is unreasonable. Why would Adam and Eve betray the God in the Bible? There are 3 major reasons. First, the genetic structure of Adam and Eve had faults or was imperfect. The life created by this God was now its own constraint. This angered the God very much. It is just like the house built by an architect who put every efforts was fallen and hit his own feet. Is the house or the architect that should be blamed? The second reason they betrayed is that they were instigated and seduced by the snake. Adam and Eve are humans while behind the snake was the devil Satan. The energy and wisdom of human beings can't match those of the devil. This God didn't punish the devil Satan. Instead, it imposed inflictions on Adam and Eve and drove them out of Eden. Is it fair? If a rapist raped an 8-year-old girl, would it be fair to blame the girl for her sexual organ and weakness instead of bringing justice to the rapist? The third reason of betrayal, which is also the most important one, is the damned wisdom tree that can tell the good and evil. Who has planted it in the Eden and why? It's just like putting a poisonous sweet on the dinner table for the kids. Or it's like playing the porn video for the young girls while teaching them to retain their innocence. Would a moral person do such a thing? Isn't this person who planted the wisdom tree in the Eden has caused the betrayal of Adam and Eve? Besides, does this God, who had created Adam and Eve, has other measures to take rather than driving Adam and Eve out of the Eden? Is it fair not to give them a second chance simply because they have made only one mistake? Does one mistake justify their lifelong sins? Jesus came to the mortal world to atone for the human being's sins. According to the Bible, all the people have their original sin. Where does the original sin come from? Actually, they are inherited from Adam and Eve, the ancestors of human beings, whose sins were formed because they had eaten the fruit on the damned wisdom tree. When we are born, we have the original sin inherited from Adam and Eve. The cross on our back was much too heavy. According to this logic, the son of a thief is always a thief, the son of a criminal is always a criminal, and the son of an emperor is always an emperor. That's why in ancient China, in the feudal period in particular, if a man committed crime, all his family members would be sentenced to death. Or, if a man attained the Tao, even his pets ascended to heaven. This also explains why the thrones can only be passed on to the next generations of royal families. This is because it complies with the logic in the Bible. If somebody has sins, the God in the Bible and the Satan signed first. Is it humanitarian to inflict on billions of humans throughout the history simply because of the wrongdoings of Adam and Eve? Why not executing Adam and Eve and creating a new pair of humans at the time? Is creating a new couple so difficult for the God in the Bible? All the people are born with sins. This is why each of us comes to the mortal world to endure the sufferings. But the sins are not inherited from our ancestors. They are made by our slaves in the previous cycle of life. If we don't have sins, we would all have become Buddha or celestial beings. 10 Plagues of Egypt. According to the Exodus, when Moses and Aaron, in the capacity of the God in the Bible, asked the Egyptian Pharaoh to let the Israelis leave Egypt, they were refused. Consequently, the God in the Bible imposed 10 plagues on Egypt. 1. Plague of blood. The water of the Nile will be changed into blood. The fish in the Nile will die, and the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink its water. 2. Plague of frogs. The Nile will teem with frogs. They will come up into your palace and your bedroom and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and on your people, and into your ovens and kneading troughs. The frogs will go up on you, and your people, and all your officials. 3. Plague of lice. The dust of the ground became lice. Lice came upon men and animals. All the dust throughout the land of Egypt became lice. 4. Plague of flies. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies, and even the ground where they are. 5. Plague of livestock death. The fifth plague of Egypt was an epidemic disease which exterminated the Egyptian livestock, that is, horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats. 6. Plague of boils. The sixth plague of Egypt was skin. The skin was a kind of skin disease, usually translated as boils. 7. Plague of hail. The seventh plague of Egypt was a destructive storm. 8. Plague of locusts. Locusts will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. 9. Plague of darkness. Total darkness covered all Egypt for 3 days. 10. Death of the firstborn. The 10th and final plague of Egypt was the death of all firstborn in Egypt. No one escaped, from the lowest servant to Pharaoh's own firstborn son, including firstborn of livestock. It is understandable that the God punished Egypt because Egyptian Pharaoh wouldn't obey his order. However, it was unreasonable and went too far to kill the firstborn of all humans and animals in Egypt. You can punish the Egyptian Pharaoh for his disobedience. Why inflicting on the common people? Even worse, the God would kill the kids of the girl slaves working as donkeys in the lowest rank. Can we still say the God behaving like this merciful? It was behaving without humanitarianism, just like a devil. Even more abominable, the Pharaoh of Egypt wouldn't let the Israelis leave mainly because the God had hardened the Pharaoh's heart. Before the 10 plagues came, the God in the Bible had done something. According to 7:3 in the Exodus, Jehovah told Moses, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt." It means the God in the Bible had prepared a trap for the Egyptians, trying to find an excuse for the following plagues. In Exodus 8 verse 19, then the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them, as the Lord had said. In Exodus 9 verse 35, and the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, neither would he let the children of Israel go. as the Lord had spoken by Moses. In Exodus 10 verse 20, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go. In Exodus 10 verse 27, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. In Exodus 11 verse 10, and Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh. And the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. It was the God in the Bible who let the Israelis leave Egypt. But it was the same God who had hardened the Pharaoh's heart and sparked the conflicts so that the Israelis couldn't leave Egypt easily. So what the God in the Bible was doing? It was encouraging the people to revolt while telling the authorities about the revolt and encouraging the government to oppress them mercilessly. Isn't such a person a schemer and two-faced? So is this the image of the greatest creator? The Israelis are the people of the covenant. The Bible has the Old Testament and the New Testament. The part telling what happened before Jesus was born was called the Old Testament, and the part telling things after Jesus was born was the New Testament. The Testament actually means agreement, covenant, and contract. The whole Bible is the agreement, covenant, and contract between the Israelis and the greatest creator. So here is a paradox. There are over 3,000 nations in the world, and why the God has established the testament with the Israelis? Does this mean the other nations are not the subjects of the God? If they are, why has the God only established the testament with the Israelis while neglecting all the other nations? If they are not, what's the origin of all the other nations? Are Adam and Eve only the ancestors of Israelis and not the other nations? The Israelis are created by the God. Does it mean the other nations are created by the devil? There are 1,656 years between the Genesis and the Great Flood. There are 857 years between the Great Flood and the Exodus. There are 396 years between the Exodus and the founding of the Israeli state. There are 510 years between the founding of the Israeli state and their captive to Babylon. There are 152 years between their imprisonment in Babylon and the reestablishment of Jerusalem. There are 450 years between the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the birth of Jesus. There are 2003 years between the birth of Jesus and today. So according to the Bible, the history of human beings is about 6,376 years. According to the Bible, there were only 8 people survived the great flood on the earth. They were the couple of Noah, their 3 sons, and their wives. It means that 4,700 years ago, there was no one else living on the earth except for the Noah family. But this has brought some other questions. First, where did the American Indians come from? According to the theory of continental drift, America drifted away from the other continents. But it couldn't happen within 4,700 years of time. Then how the Noah family reached America from the Middle East. After the Great Flood, there were only 8 members in Noah family. It was impossible for them to get dispersed. Noah couldn't let one of his sons and his wife to cross the freezing Siberia and the Bering Strait to get to America. Second, where did the African blacks come from? From the perspective of genetics, the blacks, yellows, and whites have their separate ancestors. A couple of pure whites couldn't generate the blacks and yellows. Even the evolvement couldn't produce the blacks and yellows in 3,700 years of time. Besides, according to Darwin's evolutionary theory, the survival of the fittest, could the Israelis able to write the Bible evolve into the African blacks? The blacks are not the matches of Israelis in the intelligence, no matter how we exaggerate their abilities. Now let's come to the Chinese nation. The first Chinese king was born about 4,600 years ago. The story of Dayu's flood control happened about 4,200 years ago. It was impossible for the future generations of Noah to come to mainland China 100 years after the Great Flood. Even if they did it, how could they produce so many people who followed Dayu to control the flood? Where does the Chinese nation come from? Are the flood control by Dayu or just the Great Flood? From the perspective of the Bible, the biological evolutionary theory could never be accepted. But once we accepted the theory, it would deny the theory that the God created the human beings. But if we denied the evolutionary theory, there was no way to explain the origin of the blacks and yellows, and we can't say Adam and Eve are the common ancestors of all human beings. The story of Cain. The first child of Adam and Eve, after they were driven out of the Eden, was Cain, followed by Abel. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. Out of jealousy, Cain killed his brother Abel. We want to ask the God in the Bible some questions. Why do you favor the offerings of Abel instead of those of Cain? Is Cain killing his brother Abel not your fault? If you had never favored one of them, how could it arouse the jealousy of Cain? Why the people created by you had so many troubles? Adam and Eve wouldn't follow your orders, and their kids killed each other. As the God, you don't have the ability to solve these problems? Or is it what you have designed? Cain was a murderer and deserved the punishment. But you told Cain, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. So what kind of the justice standard is it? It is hardly understandable not to levy the punishment on the criminal. But it is even more understandable to have revenge of sevenfold on those who would punish the criminal. Is it protecting the criminal? That's why the few thousand years of human history were full of blood, violence, and crime. The God in the Bible has been protecting the criminals. Therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. Because Cain is a criminal, we can fully understand it as, therefore, whosoever slayeth the criminal, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. We can conclude we had better become criminals because the criminals are protected and the good men are not. The good men have the risk of being revenged sevenfold. The prophet and the dream. In the Bible, there are a large number of prophets and dreams. The prophets are the representatives of the God in the mortal world. They have unimaginable wisdom and power, which sink the average people with average wisdom into the mist. If someone says, I am a prophet, should we believe him or not? If we don't, we are standing against the God. If we do, how can we know the prophet is a fake or not? Now let's talk about the dreams. There are many dreams and dream analysis in the Bible, in particular in the Revelation. Of course, those who can analyze the dreams are all prophets, but they have also brought a lot of puzzles. First, has the prophet had the dream at all? No one could see his dream, and he could well compose some dreams and cheat us. If he really had the dream, was his analysis correct, or was he analyzing the dream on the reverse aspect? I want to ask the God in the Bible, in the Old Testament, you used to talk directly with the human beings. Then why you stopped doing so later? Are the Adam and Eve on other planets also disobeying your orders? Why would you warn the human beings in the form of dreams? Why not tell us the truth directly? Don't you have the ability to do so? Don't you have time? Don't you have some secret sorrow? I can give many other examples to state that the God in the Bible does not have the features of being unique and exclusive, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, supremely powerful, merciful, and wise as genuine greatest creator has. So we can affirm that the God in the Bible is not the genuine greatest creator.
翻译上帝的话语。
Interpretation of the words of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. The greatest creator has never talked with human beings directly. The word of the greatest creator is hidden in the laws of nature. In a word, the word of the greatest creator is the Tao. To be specific, the greatest creator's speeches are the equations in physics, the molecular formula in chemistry, the formula in math, the structural formula in biology, and the cause-effect formula in life science. So only the great physicists, chemists, mathematicians, biologists, and doctors can interpret the greatest creator's speeches. The works such as Tao Te Ching, the Yellow Emperor's Book of Internal Medicine, and the Book of Supreme Senses are the interpretation of the greatest creator's speeches in the social life science. In human society, the successful people in all sectors have implemented the speeches of the greatest creator unintentionally because they have followed the movement laws of matters at the right time and the right place. The laws are the greatest creator's speeches. And the losers are those who have gone against the laws. The wealthy people, either in physical or mental aspect, are those who are willing to follow the laws. We can say they have understood the greatest creator's speeches. Those who are poor in physical or mental aspect have ignored the existence of the greatest creator and misunderstood the speeches. All those who are modest enough to receive the education can understand the greatest creator's words. Those who are stubborn, impatient, inflexible, or who wouldn't stay quiet to think, would violate the words. They are not reasonable or worthy of being saved. They are born to suffer. It needs the wisdom to interpret the greatest Creator's words. Moreover, it needs thinking, understanding, peaceful mind, complete spiritual state, reverence to the greatest Creator, respecting to Buddha and God, love for nature, life, and human beings. I would try to interpret some of the words of the greatest Creator, earnestly request those learned and great recluses to point out my mistakes so that I can be corrected. I am the greatest Creator, the supreme master of the universe, the leader of all gods, the cradle of life, the birthplace of wisdom, the original force of the universe, the energy center of the supermaterial world, the stream in the desert and the beacon in the mist. I am almighty, ubiquitous, impeccable, and perceptive. I have prepared the thousand-year world, 10,000-year world, and Elysium world for those who revering me. The worlds are perfect where you don't have to worry about shelter, food, necessities, illness, old age, death, or disasters. You can enjoy the life completely. So you should take my path. I have also prepared the lower world for those who ignore me, abuse me, desecrate me, or betray me. In the lower worlds, which include the hell, frozen layer, and flaming layer, you will be tortured and punished for what you have done. So you should give up evil and return to good, begging me to forgive your sins. Your life is short, so you can't afford to waste your valuable life on some meaningless things. You should give priority to the pursuit me. I will show up when you pursue me. You knock on my door, and I will open it for you. Everything you have seen is just the flash in the pan. The truth is hidden on the other side of what you have seen, and you have to seek the truth on your own. Everything you possess in the mortal world will never bring you the genuine happiness or pleasure. The more you possess in the mortal world, the more distress you will sink into. You should pursue wisdom because only wisdom can grant you with happiness and pleasure. I will allow the people with wisdom to the senior life space. You shouldn't make the human life much too complicated. You should pursue the simple and fruitful life. I prefer those common people with wisdom, not the people with authorities, power, or fame. You should never limit your thinking within the three-dimensional space because that will blind you against other spaces. Don't deny the existence of other spaces simply because you can't see them, just like you can never deny the existence of particles just because you can't see them. You should stay away from the evil conducts. Those who steal, rob, cheat, blackmail, rape, murder, or corrupt will never have the bright future. Don't be jealous, slandering, arrogant, conceited, complaining, or crafty because these are the virus which will swallow your spiritual nature. You shouldn't compare yourself with others. Behave yourself and take your own path. Don't follow the fashions or trend and don't lose the right path. You should be modest enough to learn from the wise people and brave enough to listen to their instructions and admit your ignorance. Born into the mortal world, you are destined to be the human beings. So don't pursue super performance or becoming the Buddha or God. You should take the path of being a human. Your next life cycle is determined by your virtues as a human. I hate those who are performing weirdly. The earth is the home to all human beings. You should love every tree and bush, and every hill and every stream in the earth. Those who damage the earth will lose their homes. Those who care for the earth will enter the beautiful homes. I will treat you the same way you treat me. I have never created that many conflicting religions in the mortal world. I have just created the laws for the universe and life. The religions are created by the humans on your own. Don't build temples or churches for me. The entire universe is where I stay. Don't sacrifice cattle or sheep to me. I am the greatest creator and I don't eat those things. You should revere me with your heart. Don't try to cheat me with those superficial forms because I can sense it. I hate those who look loyal and scorn me in the heart. You should show filial piety to the elderly because you are on the way to become elderly. You should care for the kids because you are the kids in my eyes. I will not care for those who don't care for the kids. You should respect the teachers and receive the education modestly. Otherwise, your soul will be covered by ignorance and your life will be spent in darkness. You should obey the laws and regulations and respect your kings and emperors. The laws are everywhere in the universe, and you shouldn't be outlaws. The right of being a human is granted by me. You should retain the right and fight against those who try to deprive you of the right. You should behave yourself as humans and never act as fawning as a dog. You help yourselves, and I will help you. You give up, and I will forsake you. The population on the earth is much too large. You must learn to control the population and can't reproduce freely like animals. Otherwise, I will inflict the plagues on you. This is my warning, and be serious with it. Don't blame me for being cruel. You should seek me actively and take my path. If you neglect my existence and act reckless as you wish, the plagues will be imposed on you at any time. Hold my hands firmly. Look forward to the corrections from those who have understood the greatest creator. You will see clear paradise scenes. Stay and study in life genuine will a new life begin. Faraway mountains are fresh and green. Take a broad view, and you will see.
给东海一宵讲上帝。
Preaching the greatest creator to Donghai Yixiao. Xiefeng. The Confucianists revere the heaven, calling it as the heaven, the imperial heaven, or the elderly heaven lord. They admit the existence of the power beyond humans and the existence of God. Such recognition is not prompted by the sudden impulse or the education from a certain master. Instead, it comes from the life and life experience of billions of people. We can go to a few elderly people above 60 years old and ask them, "Do you believe such heaven Lord above everything?" I am sure at least half of them will admit the existence of the heaven Lord. This heaven, imperial heaven, or elderly heaven Lord, is the greatest creator. If you observe the performance of a CNC machine, what feeling do you have? You will find it working accurately and conscientiously. Now, do you believe it is the natural attribute of the machines, or believe someone behind is operating this machine? Well, I will give you an example. The honeycomb is a hexagonal cylinder, the bottom of which are three rhombuses of the same size with the obtuse angle at 109.028 foot and the acute angle at 70.032. So why do they have such angles? According to the calculations by the scientists, only such angles can save the materials to the largest degree. Now I want to ask, is it because the bees are clever or because some force behind the bees is manipulating them, just like someone behind the CNC machine is operating them? I have listed dozens of the examples in the chapter of the greatest creator. With these facts, would you still deny the existence of the greatest creator? Everything has its origin. And where is the origin? All things are moving. And where is the driving force? Everything has psychic energy. And where is the psychic energy? Everything exists for a purpose. And what is the ultimate purpose? Life has different levels. What is the highest level of life? Can you say the highest level of life is Donghai Xiao, the Yi or the movement laws of universe are made by the Yi? All things sense each, and there is a terminal for the sensing. Where is this terminal? Can you say all the computers in the world are connected to the internet, and the terminal is on the computer of the Yi? Do you still want to deny the greatest creator? Of course, you can say everything is formed naturally. Then can you explain to us what is called naturally, and how it produces the things and their movement procedures in the universe? You have to reveal the whole process in strict logics. You can't just raise your head and say, "It is natural." I just don't admit the existence of the greatest creator. I want to see what you can do with me. All the people in this world believing in the greatest creator are those with spiritual nature, perception, and wisdom. All those who don't are troublemaking people. The greatest creator does not belong to anyone. It is wrong to think that the greatest creator should help whoever believing in him. The greatest creator is just like the sun, shining impartially on everyone in the mortal world. Who gets more sunshine is determined by their habits and preference. Whether you love sunshine or not is your own choice, not the greatest creator. The greatest creator has 8 features. It is sole and only, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, merciful, supremely powerful and wise. I have said the God in the Old Testament is not the genuine greatest creator because the God in the Old Testament does not have 8 features. I have also said the Krishna advocated by the Kirtan and the Bhakti movement is not the genuine greatest creator because he has 16,108 wives. The genuine greatest creator is neutral or unisex, neither male nor female. Any statement or practice personalizing the greatest creator is wrong. Why? 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 I will not give further explanation. You can make your own judgment. Why have some people resisted the greatest creator believed by the life Chanyuan? The reason is that when the genuine greatest creator shows up, the fakes will find no place to hide. They have no choice other than slandering it. After all, I do not expect you to believe in the greatest creator overnight. But I do hope you are not hurried to deny it. Instead, you should spend your whole life proving it. So long as you can exclaim, I will not regret to die in the evening if I learned in the morning.
人体的奥妙，证明上帝存在的例证。
The secret of human bodies examples proving the existence of the greatest creator. Shuifeng. Though the modern medicine has limited knowledge of human bodies, what we have known is enough for us to admire the excellent human body structure and functions. Each system and organ in the human body is designed by the greatest creator. Even those trivial body parts have great functions. For example, there are several types of hairs on human bodies with distinct forms and functions. The head hair is designed to protect and beautify the head. It can grow long. According to the Bible, but if a woman has long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. The eyebrows can divert sweat and rain, preventing them into the eyes. That's why they are lined above the two eyes. Eyelashes can prevent the dust and other things from entering the eyes. That's why they are lined on the sides of the eyelids. Also, they stand forward in a special curve because it wouldn't hinder the eyesight or pierce into the eyes when closing the eyes. If the eyebrows and eyelashes are too long, they will hinder the eyesight. That's why they wouldn't grow as long as the hair or beards. The nasal hairs can filter the inhaled air. That's why they grow inside the nostril and stand sideways and outwards. If they stand inwards, the other things will find it easy to come into the nostrils and difficult to go out. The armpit hairs can prevent the partial friction and help the sweat evaporate. Without the armpit hairs, we have to raise our arms. Otherwise, the skin under the arm will become inflamed because of the friction and moist. Required by the function, the armpit hairs cannot grow as long as the head hairs or as short as the eyebrows. Besides, they are soft and curving. If they are rigid and coarse, they will hurt the skin. And cilia grow on the intestinal epithelium. The cilia grow downward and vibrate together. The vibrating waves move downward from upward to help move down the intestinal contents. Cilia also grow on the airway and bronchus epithelium. However, they grow and vibrate in the opposite direction as those on the intestinal epithelium. Only in this way can they move the sputum upward to the throat and spit them. If they grow downward, the airway and bronchus would get stuck by the sputum and the humans would die from it. Now I wish to take two simple reflections of human bodies as an example. When foreign matters enter the nostrils or airways, they will arouse two protective reflections, sneeze or cough, which is designed to repel the foreign matters. But due to different situation, these two reflections differ in their approaches. The foreign matters in the nostrils are not urgent, so the sneeze reflection can be prepared in a composed way. First, inhale slowly. Open the mouth, and the soft place move upward to block the nostril. Then breathe in enough air through the mouth, and the pleural body contracts sharply to emit the air in the lungs quickly. When the emitting reaches its peak, the tongue rises abruptly to block the mouth to repel the air to go out swiftly through the nostrils. In this way, the foreign matters in the nostrils are driven out. However, if the foreign matters enter the airway, it is an emergent situation. If the foreign matters are not driven out timely, the life will be put at risk. The inhaling is strictly forbidden because it will make the foreign matters go deeper and cause suffocation. So the cough doesn't include the inhaling. Instead, the glottis closes immediately. At the same time, the pleural body contracts suddenly and adds the lung air pressure extremely. When the pressure is at its strongest point, the glottis opens suddenly and the lung air sends out explosively, compelling the foreign matters in the airway to the throat via the glottis. At this time, the soft place rises to block the nostrils. The foreign matters are spit out through the mouth. If the tongue and the soft place perform the same way as in the sneeze, the foreign matters emitted out of the airway will enter the nostrils, causing another trouble. In these two reflections, The body parts must cooperate closely. Any failure in the coordination will lead to the failure of the reflection, causing serious consequences. So these activities are not done freely. Instead, they are done as required by their functions and set procedures. These procedures are not learnt or practices. The program has been rooted in our brain nerve structure, nerve nucleus, when we are born. Otherwise, the babies will not survive. The advanced computer science has made it possible to simulate these activities. However, the simulation requires three conditions. 1. Device simulating the inhale and exhaling of human mouth, nose, throat, plural, and the sensing device. 2. The central control equipment simulating nerves and body system, compute, input, and output devices. The above two devices are hardware, and software is also needed, namely 3. A program composed in strict compliance with the requirements to control the performance and procedure of each link, and arrange them in perfect coordination. All the three conditions are imperative. Otherwise, the reflections can't be realized. The program itself is not a substance structure. Instead, it is a smart use and spiritual result. There will be no such a thing as the program without the smart use. So we have to ask, the program is composed by the humans and stored in the computer. How about the control program in the human brain? Is it also composed by someone and stored in the human brain? Sneeze and cough are the simplest examples. There are numerous automatically controlled physical, biochemical, and pathological human body activities, which are even more sophisticated than reflections of cough. Even today, some of them remain mysteries to us. So how are these sophisticated control programs composed? And where do they come from? Now let's have a look at the sensory organs on human bodies. Why do we have two ears? The reason is that one ear is not able to identify the direction. With the ears lying on two sides of the head, the sound reaches the ears in sequence of time. Based on the slight receiving time difference, the brain can judge where the sound comes from. The auricle is the most outward component of the ear. It can introduce the sound into the external auditory canal. Within the auricle, there is a thin layer of cartilage helping to retain the form of auricle, giving it wonderful elasticity and protecting it from the clashes. Without the cartilage, the auricle is just two useless pieces of skin hanging on the head side. If the thin bone is inside the auricle, it will break easily even if when you are sleeping on your side, damaging the auricle. There is fuzz on the outer segment of the external auditory canal, preventing the sand and dust. The inner segment secretes cerumen to prevent insects. When foreign matters enter the external auditory canal, it will trigger head shaking instead of sneeze or cough to get the matters out. Because the external auditory canal is a blind passage, it is impossible to repel the foreign matters with air. Why don't the foreign matters in the nostrils arouse the head-shaking reflection to repel them? That's because the nostrils of humans almost lie in the middle of the head. The shaking is not able to produce enough centrifugal force. Besides, the human nostrils face downward, and it is improper to repel the foreign matters by shaking the head. The sound is produced by the mechanical vibration of objects and is transmitted by the air fluctuation, or the sound waves. The human ears are actually working like a precise mechanical vibration monitor. In the inner ear, there are a number of keyboards with different sizes, producing nerve impulses produced by echoing with corresponding frequencies. The brain, in accordance with the features of these impulses, identifies the strength, tunes, and timbre of the sounds. We must note, though there are many sensory organs in human bodies, only the inner ear is protected by the most solid and firm bones. In fact, it lies in the cave part of the temporal bone. Of all the sensory organs, only the ears monitor the mechanical vibration, which needs a relatively fixed position. Otherwise, it is not able to monitor the sound. If the inner ear lies in the soft tissues, when the sound wave arrives, the inner ear will vibrate with it. Thus, it can hear nothing. Now the inner ear lies in the firm bone, and it can't sense the air vibration. So it is imperative to reduce the density waves to the mechanical vibrations before sending them to the inner ear. And there is such a reduction device at the middle bottom of the external auditory canal, which is called the eardrum. The eardrum has enough space to receive the air pressure. It is thin enough to vibrate when the sound wave arrives. Meanwhile, the eardrum is strong enough to push the transmission device. The long handle of the middle ear cartilage is attached to its inner side, the tensile force of which makes the eardrum sink inside slightly to maintain certain tension. This allows the eardrum to accurately reduce the arriving sound waves into the mechanical vibrations. No matter what the temperature is, the vibration function is not impacted. After the sound waves are reduced into the mechanical vibration, some rigid objects are needed to transmit the vibration to the inner ear. Of all body tissues, the most rigid objects are the bones. However, the bones are heavy in general and covered by the soft tissues, which are not suitable for the audio vibration. However, in the tympanic cavity between the eardrum and the inner ear, there are three unique tiny bones with delicate forms measured in millimeters. They are almost completely exposed to the air in the tympanic cavity. These three tiny bones are connected by ligament and form a transmission chain and curve with excellent audio vibration function, able to transmit accurately the vibration of the eardrum to the inner ear. The transmission device can properly multiply the weak vibration and reduce the strong sound wave. All of these structures are the super designs required by the acoustics. There are even smarter designs in the hearing organ. For example, to make the eardrum vibrate freely following the arriving sound waves, the two sides of the eardrums must be exposed to the air. As a result, there is a tympanic cavity full of air in the middle ear. If the cavity is filled by liquids, just as other cavities are, the eardrum is not able to vibrate because the liquids can't contract. Besides, the cavity does not only need to be filled with air, but also needs to be connected to the outside world with a proper passage to balance the static air pressure in the cavity with the outside air pressure. Otherwise, the air in the cavity will gradually be absorbed, causing the eardrum to sink excessively or damaging it. When the outside air pressure changes, such as in mountain climbing, diving, the airplane takeoff, or climate change, it will arouse uncomfortable feelings or lead to hearing malfunction. But the middle ear can't be open to the outside world directly, just like the external auditory canal or nostrils can. The reason is that the direct exposure will make the arriving waving sound reach the two sides of the eardrums at the same time via the external auditory canal and middle ear passage, counteracting the sound pressure. Thus, the eardrums will not vibrate at all, unable to produce the hearing. So it is a difficult problem to connect the middle ear and the outside world. However, the human body, with a smart design, solves this problem. The middle ear is opened at the two sides in the upper rear of the pharynx via a half-open passage, the so-called auditory tube. The auditory tube is locked in common times and only opened temporarily when taking the swallowing actions, balancing the air pressure in the middle ear shortly. After the swallowing action is over, the auditory tube is locked again. Apart from eating, human body would regularly take swallowing action unconsciously, even when he or she is sleeping. Thus, the air pressure in the middle ear can be adjusted from time to time and avoid the hearing from being hindered. Besides, when swallowing, the swallowing segment and the soft palate will definitely rise, blocking the mouth and nostrils against the outside world. So on the moment when the ear and throat are opened shortly, though the air in the throat can enter the middle ear, the sound waves from the outside world are blocked against the middle ear. As a result, the hearing will not be interfered and can receive the outside sound and voice. Only the throat in the body can meet the special demand of the hearing organs. The throat is originally designed as part of the digestion and breathing system. It does not belong to sensory system. However, it can cooperate so smartly with the hearing organs. We have to admire the extremely delicate body-wise design. The vestibule in the inner ear controls the balance of the body. In the vestibule, there are three semicircular canals. When the body loses balance, the mutually vertical semicircular canals produce the balance impulse, which triggers the corresponding reflection via the balance center in the medulla brain. Why are there three semicircular canals instead of two or four? And why are they mutually vertical? The reason is apparent. Humans live in the three-dimensional space. There are three mutually vertical movement directions, namely front and rear, left and right, upward and downward. So the three mutually vertical semicircular canals can monitor the movements. The number less than three or more than three would be insufficient or redundant. We can see the delicate and smart structure and function and the supreme wisdom in them. They can't be the accidental results. As the most important perception of human bodies, vision provides more information than that provided by all other perceptions. The vision is the perception of image and space, and the visual organs must have the most precise and accurate structure completely different from other sensory organs. As a result, in the perspective of the embryogenesis or neuroanatomy, the main structure of the eyes is not just the common receptor. Instead, it is part of the cerebral cortex. The so-called optic nerves are completely different from other cerebrospinal nerves. In essence, the optic nerves are inner structure in the brain, transmitting the most sophisticated visual information. The eyes function like a precise camera. The retina, composed of the photoreceptor cells, is just like the films. The crystal, iris, and the cornea works like the lens, diaphragm, and the filter. However, the precision and automatic adjustment of the eyes is no match of any high-quality cameras. For example, the lens in modern cameras is made of special glass or hard plastics with fixed focal distance. When taking pictures for the landscapes with different distances, the lens position must be adjusted. Otherwise, the image will not be produced on the films. But this is an awkward approach. Imagine when the eyes are watching landscapes with different distances, the eyeballs have to protrude or recess alternatively, which looks ugly or damages the health and function of the eyes. However, the crystal in the eyes are transparent and elastic colloid, which can adjust automatically the focal distance in accordance with the distance of the objects to make sure all the objects can be imaged on the retina, without changing the position of the crystal. Such automatic adjustment function can't be fulfilled by any camera. If we observe the eyes in the perspective of modern TV technologies, the eyes are more like the television camera, but thousands of times more precise than the television cameras. The TV image is composed of dense pixels, the mixed dark or brilliant light spots. Till now, the best TV image only contains less than 1 million pixels. However, the human eyes can produce image containing 20 billion pixels. Only the eyes can see the details of objects. No matter how clear or accurate the image is, it is still a plan view image. Then how the eyes can provide the dimensional image is a key issue of providing the complete vision. But it is not an easy task at all to convert the flat view image into the dimensional one. For a long time, people have been puzzled by how the conversion is done. Of course, we later knew the smartness and delicacy of the human body shown here. The two eyes send the flat view images they receive into the same nerve center, which contrasts and analyzes the images and judges the distance of the objects based on the slight visual angle difference caused by the position difference of the two eyes. Thus, the dimensional image is produced. That's why people have to have two eyes to establish the complete vision. Based on such understanding, humans have invented the dimensional movies. But the above is only the external process of how vision is formed. People have little knowledge about how the visual center works inside. We have to admit that the mysteries of human body structure and functions are beyond the intelligence of mankind. As a matter of fact, the distance judgment with two eyes is the triangulation technique, which is precise and automatic. The accurate measurement needs two premises. First, the two eyes must focus on one object at the same time. Otherwise, there will be double vision, which means the one object will be seen as two objects. As a result, the complete neuromuscular system is equipped on the outside of the eyeballs, making the eyeballs the most flexible and accurate organs. The ciliary muscle inside the eyeballs can adjust the conversion rate of the crystal at any time to focus on the object and form the clearest image. Second, the retina of the two eyes must be strictly symmetrical. Otherwise, the image contrast of the two eyes will become impossible. Furthermore, the images received by the two eyes must be transmitted at the same time to the same visual center for contrast and analysis. There are two visual nerves on the left and right side of the brain, supervising respectively the two sides of the vision field. The objects in the left of the vision field are reflected, via the eye pupil, on the retina of the right sides of the two eyeballs. The corresponding images in the two eyes, via the visual nerve, are sent to the visual center on the right side of the brain. The objects in the right of the vision field are reflected, via the eye pupil, on the retina of the left sides of the two eyeballs. The corresponding images in the two eyes, via the visual nerve, are sent to the visual center on the left side of the brain. The two visual nerves contrast the corresponding images coming from the eyes and produce the full-field dimensional images. The pairs of human parts are often symmetrical on the outside. Only the retinas are symmetrical in the same position. Namely, the left side is symmetrical to the left side, and the right side symmetrical to the right side of the two retinas. That's because the light rays come in directly. Otherwise, the visual centers can't receive the corresponding images or get the coordinated vision. The structural symmetry of the retinas in the two eyes must be accurate to the utmost. Otherwise, the images in the two eyes will not comply with each other, and the ambiguity will occur. Besides, the corresponding images from the two eyes must be sent to the same visual center. Thus, the optic nerves must have the corresponding special structure to realize the cross-transmission of the images. This is the unique chiasma opticum, unique to the optic nerves. This function is not possessed by any other nervus cerebrospinalis because they don't handle the information of images and space. If we use the computers and monitoring cameras to simulate the process of human vision, the input network of the computers has to have a similar chiasm. No other design can do it. Judging from the above, we can find all the human organs, structures, and functions have shown the supreme wisdom. And these are the ways they should be. Some people think that human body has some useless organs, such as the thymus gland, appendix, tonsil, and coccyx, in order to prove the human structure is imperfect. Some people used to believe that these organs were not that useful. Instead, they tend to arouse diseases such as appendicitis and tonsillitis. If these organs are cut off, it will not have much impact on the human body. In the past, people used to classify spleens and other organs into the useless organs. There was a list of useless organs in the past which included over 100 organs. But the list was long not because these organs are useless, but because people at the time were ignorant. As more we know about the organs, most of them have been deleted from the list, and there are only a few still remain in the list. Some people think that these organs are the leftovers of human evolution, which are called the waste-back organs, and use them as one of the evidences of evolution theory. This is a complete misunderstanding. Till not we have understood there are no such things as the obsolescent organs. It is simply the lack of knowledge of these organs. Take the thymus gland as an example. In the past, people didn't know its function. Now we have understood it is the warning device of the human body against the inner and outer infection sources. As a result, the thymus gland contributes a lot to the human health. Another example, if the coccyx fractures, it will cause serious functional disturbance. So the coccyx is also an imperative part of human body. Some people might say these organs can trigger diseases. Then all human organs can lead to diseases. Even brain and heart are of no exceptions. Why don't we say the brain and heart are useless? Some organs, though they are not as important as the heart and brain and wouldn't endanger life immediately when eliminated, are also useful. Just like if the hands or feet are lost, though not fatal, the human body is handicapped. After knowing the supreme and smart design of human structures and functions, you might want to know how they come into being. Who has designed and made such sophisticated and precise organs? We cannot avoid the question. Any truth-seeking person would admit that the extremely delicate organs and structures are not produced naturally or accidentally. For instance, if someone gives you a top-class camera and tells you it is a natural one without designer or manufacturer, do you think his words are scientific and acceptable? The human body, which is even more delicate, accurate, flexible, and practical, must have a supremely wise and capable creator behind it. On a spring Sunday morning in 1954, I saw a young stranger sitting in the chamber of a church. When we started to talk, I knew that he was a student at Peking Union Medical College. He said to me, "Since I studied anatomy and physiology, I have felt the human body is really a wonder. It is not possible to understand it unless we interpret the wonder with a God." He came to the church to seek an answer. The wonder of this young man is not the only example. I remember that when I was studying anatomy and physiology in school, some students surrounded our physiology teacher and kept asking him questions. Finally, the teacher, annoyed by so many questions, told us, "Please stop the questions because they will lead to religion in the end." Because of the special political background at the time, the teacher's warning silenced all the students. But his warning impressed me deeply and remained in my memory till today. My thought at that time was that the teacher was right because all the things were created by the God. Though he was not a Christian, He had to admit the truth, and the further probe into the human body mysteries, part of the universe mysteries, would definitely lead to the existence of the God, religion, in the end. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain the wonders of the human body. The Bible says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." 120 Romans 1. Was the teacher demonstrating his scientific spirit?
No.
The scientific spirit means the truth and boldly pursuit of the truth without avoiding any controversy. The teacher knew very clearly that one more step forward would lead to the God, but he dared not move onto the path towards the truth. Instead, he asked his students to stop there. It has shown that many people refuse to admit the existence of God not because they don't have the scientific spirit, but because of the social pressure, individual consideration for their interest and prospect, just as what the teacher was doing at that time. Nevertheless, the existence of the God would not change. And we cannot live in such considerations for the reality forever. One day in the future, when we have to face the ultimate choice, we will have to face the Supreme Master who has created the universe and the human beings. The Bible says, "And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment." If we don't accept the immoral God now, we have no excuse when it comes to the day. When we talk about the origin of all things in the universe, some young people often ask, "You have said the humans are created by the God. Then who has created the God?" The analogizing logics seem to be reasonable, but it is not true. Because the God is the creator instead of the created, you can't link these together. The table is made by the carpenter, but you cannot say the carpenter and the table have the same origin. Human beings' understand of the God is only limited to the enlightenment from the God to the humans. Otherwise, humans cannot understand the mystery of God's nature. The God says, "I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty." Exodus 3 verse 14 and Revelation 1 verse 8. For the God, there is only the eternality, and there is no time, beginning or ending. Even in the scientific field, too many analogizing questions won't be tolerated. One scholar was talking about the belief in the God with his students. One student asked suddenly and proudly, "Where does the universe come from?" The scholar answers, "The universe is created by the God." The student continued to ask, "Who has created the God?" The scholar answered, "The God is Alpha and Omega, and I am not created." The student said, "This is not scientific at all." The scholar then asked the student, "Where does the earth come from?" The student answered, "The earth comes from the sun." The scholar continued to ask, "Where does the sun come from?" The student answered, "The sun comes from the galaxy." The scholar asked again, "Where does the galaxy come from?" The student hesitated and answered, "The galaxy comes from the nature." The scholar continued to ask, "Where does the nature come from?" The student couldn't answer this question and said in anger, "The nature is the nature and comes naturally." The scholar then laughed, "This is not scientific at all." So we can conclude that the scientific answers are not scientific. Another example is that the sciences tell people that substances are composed of the molecules. Then what are the molecules composed of? The molecules are composed of the atoms. But what are the atoms composed of? They are composed of the electrons, protons, and neutrons. Then what are the electrons, protons, and neutrons composed of? Till now, we cannot find an answer to this question. The atomic physicists are now working hard to find the elementary particle. They are called basic particles because the scientists don't expect the substances to be divided limitlessly. So they believe that one day they will find the ultimate component, the elementary particle. Of course, the scientist will not ask such question of, "What is something composed of?" This is the extremity and everything ends here. The materialists claim that the universe is limitless and that the materials are eternal and can be divided limitlessly, etc. They are simply the groundless conclusion of the philosophers. And there is an extremity in their logics, the materials. They say that the materials are alpha and omega, but can't tell where the materials come from. Now let's have a look at the math. All numbers come from 1. followed by 2, 3. You can't ask what the 1 is because 1 is 1 and not other numbers. It means that 1 is the origin of all numbers. The greatest creator has created all things, and the greatest creator is the origin of them. It will be meaningless to ask where the greatest creator comes from.
上帝在意志体现自然规律肯法则中。
The will of the greatest creator is reflected in the laws and rules of nature. Xiefeng, May 192015. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Tao is the integration of all the rules and laws of the universe and is the consciousness of the greatest creator. Therefore, the will of the greatest creator is reflected in the laws and rules of nature. If our thoughts, words, and deeds comply with the laws and rules of nature, then we will be rewarded by the greatest creator. But if they are against them, then we will be punished. Ultimate Tao cannot be reached by active pursuit. There is no way to get rewards from the greatest creator by wishing for them, no matter who you are, how pious you are, nor how much you emotionally love the greatest creator. When you go against the laws and rules of nature, you will be punished. For instance, regardless how many joss sticks we burn or how many times we kowtow in a temple, if we drink poison, we will surely die. This is the only way that things work. Merits and mistakes do not offset each other. A merit is a merit and mistake is a mistake. We will be rewarded for our merits and punished for our mistakes. No matter what great merits we have, as long as we make mistakes, even slight ones, we will be punished for them. That is to say, even if we perform 10,000 good deeds, we will still be punished for doing one bad thing. The greatest creator will not ignore a single bad thing no matter how many good things we do. So, we all suffer from illness and mishaps, be it the Pope, the hierarch, the master, the emperor, the devout disciple, or the lay person. Even a messenger of the greatest creator would not be given special grace by which to escape from the due punishment. Just do not assume that you will be saved from the consequences of your mistakes by following the greatest creator and taking his way. Therefore, the most difficult thing is to ascend to a higher space of life by self-refinery and self-improvement because it is rigorous, meticulous, precise, and non-emotional. For instance, if the standard for a mortal to ascend to immortality is 100 points, then 99 points would never be enough. It is just like the 81. Hardships experienced by Monk Tang. Not one single hardship could be missed in order for him to succeed. Therefore, we must remember that when we encounter sorrows, setbacks, and failures, they are hardships that we must traverse. This is karma. The sin we sow can only be dispelled by reaping a painful consequence. There is no alternative. Of course, we should never doubt the justice and mercy of the greatest creator. Absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by the absolute life. Absolutely beautiful things are boundless and endless, and when we want to enjoy these unending and boundlessly beautiful things, we should focus on examining our lives and ask ourselves, is mine an absolutely beautiful life? If not, we should focus our self-refinery and self-improvement on improving our quality of life, rather than on absolutely beautiful things. When our quality of life reaches the absolutely beautiful realm, then absolutely beautiful things will come to us. Let us bear all the miseries, frustration, and suffering with delight and march firmly toward the perfection and beautification of life. Merits and mistakes cannot be offset. The will of the greatest creator is reflected by the laws and rules of nature. Let us strictly follow these rules and laws of nature and trek and climb, step by step, to the highest realm of life.
上帝在哪里？如何敬畏上帝？
Where is and how do we revere the greatest creator? Xiefeng, August 12011. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The greatest creator is the most mysterious, most holy, most incredible, and most supreme supernatural entity in existence. But where is the greatest creator? The universe is big beyond our imagination. Our Earth universe alone contains 3,000 great worlds, each of which contains 3,000 medium worlds. Each of those contain 3,000 small worlds, and this Earth universe is just a speck of dust in a much greater universe. This universe has 20 parallel worlds within 36-dimensional space. Where does the greatest creator reside in such a vast universe? The matter of the greatest creator is in the zero world of the 36-dimensional space. And the zero world is the node, the zero point that consists of the 20 parallel worlds, namely the zero point of the geometric XYZ number axis. This zero point connects with the 20 parallel worlds and is the command center of the universe as our brains and central nervous systems are to our bodies. Everything in the universe is a manifestation of the consciousness of the greatest creator, which is Tao. It is like everything created on the earth is a manifestation of human consciousness except for the natural material. The constitutional law is the embodiment of the collective consciousness of all people. It can be said that human consciousness is the constitutional law. Tao is the spirit of the greatest creator, and all things run in Tao and are ultimately dominated by it. Therefore, all things are of the spirit of the greatest creator. That is, all things have spirit. Thus, we conclude that the matter of the greatest creator is in the zero world, but the spirit of the greatest creator is in all things. Just as Chinese President Hu Jintao's body is in Zhongnanhai in Beijing, but his reach extends throughout China. Since the matter of the greatest creator is in the zero world, then we can never see the true face of the greatest creator, because we can never reach the zero world. Since we can never see the true face of the greatest creator, then how can we feel the presence of and know the will of the greatest creator? We can know and understand it by the things we hear, see, taste, smell, touch, feel, and experience around us. Since the spirit of the greatest creator is in all things throughout the universe, then all things contain the will of the greatest creator. We can know and experience the greatest creator and learn the will of the greatest creator through all things in the universe. This means that all things are the discourse of the greatest creator, and all the changes we sense are the monologue of the greatest creator within us. From things changing, we can know what the greatest creator wants us to do and how we must do it. For instance, a healthy person with a headache is not a normal situation. They are either overstressed by thinking, have high blood pressure or fever, or something similar. The headache would clearly indicate a need to change their daily diet and lifestyle, or a normal physiological order would not be maintained. Another example is that when phenomena such as droughts, floods, plagues, earthquakes, and extreme temperatures become frequent occurrences, something is clearly wrong with our production and lifestyle. The greatest creator clearly informs us that we need to change our lifestyle or face even greater disasters and catastrophes. It is as if a country or region experiences frequent riots and hunger. That would indicate a problem with the management of the area and that the management mode needs to be changed or it will lead to vicious cycles until the regime is overthrown. It is the same with a family. Frequent quarrels would show that something is wrong with the survival order of the family and it is time to dissolve it. Were this phenomenon to occur in most families around the globe, something would be wrong with the survival mode and lifestyle of the family system, and it would need to be broken up, or people's pains and troubles would never end and would lead to self-destruction. The greatest creator is everywhere. I see the greatest creator everywhere and all the time, from the changing weather, the blooming flowers, the mature fruits, the moving of bees' nests, the bellies of pregnant women, the wedding nights, the gurgling water, and the texture of shells from my own eyes, witnessing the transformations through time. As long as we open our spiritual perception, we can see the greatest creator everywhere and at any time. This leads to an appalling question: how can we revere the greatest creator? Reverence of the greatest creator is not a concept that can be taken as a pet phrase. We need to revere the greatest creator in our daily words and deeds in a concrete manner. Revering all things is to revere the greatest creator. When I am faced with a stem of grass, an insect, a thing, or a person, I can see the greatest creator looking right back at me through it, or him or her. If I react correctly, I will go to heaven, but if I react incorrectly, I will go to hell. From this, I find a law. If a person shows their sincere, kind, beautiful, loving, faithful, and honest consciousness to all things, they will develop to betterment and go to heaven. If not, they will have ugliness and go to hell. Readers can decide whether my conclusion above is true or not, but I do not believe that you will come up with any other conclusion.
走上帝之道者都有一个美好未来。
All those who follow the way of the greatest creator will have a wonderful future. Shuefeng, February 12, 2011. As the messenger of the greatest creator, I can offer you the most reliable guarantee that all those who follow the way of the greatest creator will secure a wonderful future and will enjoy the infinite pleasure of life in the kingdom of the greatest creator. The long-enduring Life-Chanyuan era, thousand-year world, 10,000-year world, the Elysium world and its celestial island continent. This is the unchangeable law. The combination of sperms and eggs gives birth to the carrier of life. The combination of seeds with suitable soil will make the seeds germinate, grow, flower, and bear fruits. The South Pole and North Pole of magnets are attracted to each other. The simultaneous intake of vitamin C and shrimps will cause the formation of arsenic in the body and make a person die of bleeding. Velocity multiplied by time is the distance covered. If an object reaches a speed of 11.2 kilometers per second, it can escape the gravitation force of the Earth, and if it reaches a speed of 16.7 kilometers per second, it can fly out of the solar system. The still water without the infusion of running water will stink from putridity and eventually dries up. The reaction between copper oxide and dilute sulfuric acid will result in copper sulfate and water. In Euclidean geometry, the angles of a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. On the Earth, one will return to the starting point if he keeps going forward by following a certain longitude or latitude. Water will turn into ice at 0 degrees Celsius. These and many other laws are necessary rules to be obeyed. We will reach any place that our footsteps guide us to. If we break laws, we may end up in prison. In autumn, we will harvest what we have sowed in the fertile soil in spring. According to the principle of gravity and attraction, kind actions and kind ideas will beget good results, while evil actions and evil intentions will incur evil consequences. If you chase the sun, you can escape from darkness. If you chase darkness, you can hardly see light. A man is known by his friends. He who is unjust is doomed to destruction. One will get intoxicated if he drinks too much, and will have a bulging stomach if he eats too much. A mountain dweller knows well the twittering of birds, and a fisherman has a good knowledge of fishes. Worship Buddha, and you will acquire the Buddhahood. Seek the way of immortality, and you will attain the spiritual state of a celestial being. The buildup of quantitative changes will result in qualitative changes once the critical point is surpassed. For anything, emergence and disappearance and life and death exist in unity of opposites. Each flower is a Bodhi, and each grain of sand reflects a world. The universe is holographic. The two poles are communicable and convertible. Things will develop in the opposite direction if they become extreme. Gazing for long impairs blood, lying for long impairs qi, sitting for long impairs muscles, standing for long impairs bone, and walking for long impairs tendons. A benevolent person is kind in words, actions, and look. If a person performs 3 deeds of kindness every day, he will be granted blessing by the heaven in 3 years. A ferocious and evil person is wicked in words, actions, and look. If a person performs 3 deeds of unkindness every day, he will be dealt disaster by the heaven in 3 years. All these and many others are necessary rules not to be violated. It is an inevitable and necessary law and principle that those who follow the way of the greatest creator will all enjoy a beautiful future. The greatest creator reigns supreme in the universe. The greatest creator is the omnipotent boss of the universe. People who comply to the will of the greatest creator and do things in accordance with the will of the greatest creator will surely win the blessing and favor of the greatest creator. If the son asks for steamed bun, the father will not give him the stone. If we obey the greatest creator will grant us special rewards. The greatest creator is eternal. If we follow the way of the greatest creator, we will also become eternal. The greatest creator is the source of wisdom and the birthplace of life. If we follow the way of the greatest creator, we can obtain wisdom and new life. The greatest creator is love and truth. So if we follow the way of the greatest creator, we can win love and find truth. In the universe, there are 36-dimensional space, 20 parallel worlds, and heaven and hell. If we obey the greatest creator and follow the way of the greatest creator will certainly arrange us in the most beautiful space and world. The greatest creator will absolutely not assign good thing to rebels and bad things to obedient people. If good things are assigned to rebels and bad things to the obedient people, then where are justice and laws in the world? As a result, there would be no relations between cause and effect, and everything will be put upside down. Actually, everything is in good order. Therefore, we will surely have a wonderful future if we hold the greatest creator in awe and respect, conform to the greatest creator, believe in the greatest creator, and follow the way of the greatest creator. Tathagata just tells us truth and does not tell lies. Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, and celestial being Lao Tzu are all Tathagata. They will not cheat us, and they can see no need to cheat us. Put in a nutshell, their teachings and instructions just tell us to follow the way of the greatest creator. Follow the way of the greatest creator, and we can enter the kingdom of the greatest creator, the Elysium world, and we can attain immortality. According to the values of Life Genuine, those who follow the way of the greatest creator will have their future in thousand-year world, 10,000-year world, Elysium world, and its celestial island continent. All are inevitable. You can become what you believe in. You will achieve corresponding results from the way you take. The brightest, the easiest, the most direct, and the most beneficial way in the world is the way of the greatest creator. The most nutritious thing in the world is mother's milk. The best way in the world to obtain the most beautiful future is the way of the greatest creator.
走上帝之道者的人生顺利美好。
Those who follow the way of the greatest creator will have a wonderful and successful life. Xiefeng, February 13, 2011. There is a kind of life which is free of care and worry for food and clothing, rich in care and love, healthy in body, and successful in all things. There is a kind of life which is beset with troubles and worries, plagued with miseries and pains, devoid of care and love, and fraught with twists and turns. There is yet another kind of life which alternates between brightness and darkness, rise and fall, happiness and worries, and adversity and favorable circumstances. Why? Is life a matter of predestination? What has caused the differences, the times, the society, friends and relatives, the nature, or any other factor? My understanding is that whether one has a good life or not is determined by the course of life he takes. To get the resources for life, some people depend on their own hard work, some people on other people's hard work like parasites, some people resort to blackmail and exploitation, some people engage in corruption and theft, and some people sail under false colors. The different way one makes use of to get resources leads to a different course of life, a different reel of experience, a different outcome, and of course a different life. Of the infinitely diverging roads of life, which is the best? My belief is that the best road of life is the way of the greatest creator. To have a successful and wonderful life, one has to follow the way of the greatest creator. In another word, following the way of the greatest creator is the most reliable guarantee for a smooth and wonderful life. No other road can bring so much happiness and blessing to man as the way of the greatest creator. Is this really the case? We can observe, experience, practice, and validate by ourselves. My conclusion is, if a person has enjoyed a successful and wonderful life, then most certainly he has been following the way of the greatest creator all his life. If a person's life is mixed with happiness and grief and characterized by dramatic fluctuations, then he has been following the way of the greatest creator but has sometimes strayed away from it. If a person's life is fraught with troubles and twists and turns, then it can be said most surely that he has never followed but has deviated the way of the greatest creator. Is there any theory to substantiate the above conclusion of mine? I am trying to prove the conclusion with the several connotations of the way of the greatest creator. Just see for yourself whether there is sense behind my reasoning. One important connotation of the way of the greatest creator is the compliance with nature without any forced actions. He will have a successful and wonderful life if in his life a person takes things as they are, associates with others by following the predestined relations, act in accordance with his nature, and takes advantage of the opportunities as they arise, never forcing anything upon anybody, and never imposing on himself or others. Accept whatever comes your way, and let go of those that have set their minds on leaving. You do not overdo your pursuit, and yet do not give up your endeavor. Have peaches when peaches come your way, and have apricots if apricots come your way. Do not reach for what is beyond your grasp. Do not have a sense of inferiority. Do not indulge in extravagance and dissipation. Do not lead a lazy life. In this way, you can have a wonderful and smooth life free of great fluctuations and frustrations. The second content of the way of the greatest creator is non-action, no contention, and no ego. One should not be arrogant even if he can afford the five-star hotel, and should not feel inferior if he has only a thatched hut to live in. One should feel grateful for the delicacies he has, but should also be content with simple meals. One should never contend with anybody for anything, and does not reject what is duly his. One should let go of anything that is not duly his. One should not deliberately plan and scheme to obtain anything. One should be satisfied and content with what others are not content and satisfied with. One should never be insatiably greedy. Just take a small ladle of water from a huge river. Do not act like a hog. Do not angle for fame and wealth and rank. Be contented to a poor life and devote to spiritual fulfillment. Always consider others' interests before one's own. In this way, one will not suffer setbacks and adversities. The third content of the way of the greatest creator is love. A person will not incur grudge and resentment and will certainly enjoy a smooth and wonderful life if he contributes instead of demanding things from others, if he sets his mind on other people's joy, happiness, freedom, and blessing instead of creating trouble and shackles for others, suppressing and controlling others, seizing what others are interested in, restricting others' freedom, bullying and cheating others, comparing and haggling with others, and maltreating and killing life, and if he treasures all living beings, respects all living beings, does not stand in other people's way, and is willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of others. The fourth content of the way of the greatest creator is faith. Jesus Christ is the Son and messenger of the greatest creator, who conveys to us the information and will from the greatest creator. Jesus teaches us that we need only pursue the access to the kingdom of the greatest creator and follow the way of the greatest creator, and that we need not worry about tomorrow and the future and need not worry about all aspects of our life, because the greatest creator will provide us everything that we need and has made all arrangement for us. As long as we embrace this faith, we will have a smooth, safe, and successful life. The way of the greatest creator has 8 major connotations, of which the above 4 contents are enough to secure us a successful and wonderful life. We should stick to faith, love, no ego, no contention, non-action, compliance to nature, and no employment of force. Our life will teem with troubles, miseries, worries, fears, and frustrations and twists and turns if we lack faith and love, if we engage in action and contention, if we are selfish and do not follow the law of nature but force our will on nature. How do you think, dear readers? Is there any sense in what I have said? If it makes sense, then adjust your thinking and consciousness immediately and unswervingly follow the way of the greatest creator.
上帝王国介绍
An introduction to the kingdom of the greatest creator. Dayform Buddha. December 14th, 2022. Translated by Chinyu and edited by Peter. Christ Jesus told us, "So do not worry, saying, 'What shall we eat?' Or 'What shall we drink?' Or 'What shall we wear?' For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Matthew 6 verses 31 to 33. More than 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ told the world, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." Matthew 4 verse 17. Today, Dayform Buddha has told the world, "The kingdom of the greatest creator has appeared on the earth. You should leave everything behind. Find the kingdom of the greatest creator and become a citizen of the kingdom of the greatest creator first." Where is the kingdom of the greatest creator? The kingdom of the greatest creator is in the land of freedom, where everyone enjoys the 8 rights of freedom: the rights of survival, creation, migration, speech, the individual, thought, learning, and refusal. The place where the greatest creator's will is unimpeded is the kingdom of the greatest creator. The supreme authority of the kingdom of the greatest creator is the greatest creator. The highest constitution is the way of the greatest creator, the Tao. And the highest law is the 800 values for human beings. In the kingdom of the greatest creator, there are no churches, Buddhist temples, or Taoist temples. The sun, moon, and stars are the churches. The mountains and rivers are the Buddhist temples, and wind, clouds, rain, and snow are the Taoist temples. In the kingdom of the greatest creator, there are no countries, religions, or political parties. The earth is a home for all people. Nature is the religion, and free associations and gatherings are the political parties. In the kingdom of the greatest creator, there is no marriage, family, or relatives. To be kind to each other and love each other freely is marriage. People who are kind to and love each other are family. All the citizens in the kingdom of the greatest creator are relatives. In the kingdom of the greatest creator, there is no one who gets something for nothing, no officials, and every citizen is a creator of wealth, either material wealth, spiritual wealth, or soul wealth, or some combination of all three. In the kingdom of the greatest creator, all power belongs to the greatest creator. Everyone only enjoys the pleasures of life and cannot enjoy the welfare brought by power, and no one has the right to dominate others. In the kingdom of the greatest creator, all resources belong to the greatest creator and not to any individual. Every citizen has nothing but can enjoy everything. The kingdom of the greatest creator has been born on earth, and the old system is running out of time. Those who pursue spirituality should be vigilant and seize the time to seek the kingdom of the greatest creator. Everything you have on earth will disappear, and the pursuit of possessions is the pursuit of dreams and bubbles. The words of more than 2,000 years ago will become reality. Enter the kingdom of the greatest creator, and you will survive. Stay outside the kingdom of the greatest creator, and you will vanish. Seek the greatest creator's kingdom now. If you seek it, you will find it. Keep knocking on the door of the kingdom of the greatest creator. As long as you keep knocking, the door will open for you.
人类不是上帝亲自所造，
Humans are not created by the greatest creator himself. Xiefeng, June 13th, 2023. Edited by Qin Yu. The greatest creator has 8 major features, one of which is uniqueness. This means that the greatest creator is unique, and there is only one greatest creator in the universe. Another feature of the greatest creator is amorphousness. The greatest creator does not have a fixed form. He can take on any image or even be formless. Why do we say that humans were not created by the greatest creator himself? There are 2 pieces of evidence. One is factual, and the other is logical reasoning. The fact is the book of Genesis in the Bible. Genesis 1 verse 26 states, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness.'" This passage clearly tells us that humans are created in the image and likeness of us. So, who are we? We definitely cannot be the greatest creator because there is only one greatest creator, and it is impossible to have many. We are not a singular entity, but rather a plural one. When the greatest creator says, "we," it represents and includes himself. This indicates that the greatest creator is not unique, but rather numerous, which contradicts the fact. The fact described in the Bible tells us that humans are not created by the greatest creator, but by us. If we claim that the greatest creator participated in creating humans, then without a doubt, the greatest creator mentioned in the Bible is not that unique greatest creator. In other words, humans have mistakenly equated the greatest creator with gods. In the Bible, it is referred to as God, and the Chinese translation of God is deity, rather than the greatest creator. In English, the letter G in God is written in uppercase G to differentiate between gods and the greatest creator. The lowercase God refers to gods, while the uppercase God refers to the greatest creator. This is a human-made distinction and difference that cannot be discerned in the pronunciation. If we firmly believe that what is described in the Bible is a fact, then we have to acknowledge that humans are created by gods, not by that unique God, while this unique God is the greatest creator. Therefore, we have to reconsider and rename that unique God. Instead of calling him God or the God, we should call him the greatest creator. In Chinese, we can still refer to him as Sangdi, Shangdi, but this Shangdi is not the God described in the Bible. The conclusion is that the Bible tells us that humans are created by gods, not directly by the greatest creator. Humans have mistaken gods for the greatest creator. Why is it like this? Let's engage in logical reasoning. Where does the meaning of life lie? If everything is created by the greatest creator and all living beings are born to enjoy, then does the universe still have meaning? All lives await the greatest creator to provide them with food, clothing, shelter, and to take responsibility for their birth, aging, illness, and death. In that case, does the existence of life itself still hold any joy? The greatest creator is responsible for all affairs while all lives are only responsible for enjoyment. Does the greatest creator experience joy? Imagine if you were born with everything provided by your father, and your entire life was spent being fed, bathed, clothed, carried on his back during travel, and having your father take care of everything and fulfill your wife's needs. Do you think there would be any joy or meaning in your life? Let's speculate and imagine the process of the greatest creator's creation of life after his birth. The greatest creator created gods and angels, deriving pleasure from creation. In order for gods and angels to also derive pleasure from creation, they were entrusted with the task of creating other forms of life. Thus, gods created humans in their own image and likeness, and angels created other forms of life such as animals, plants, microorganisms, etc. To enable humans to also derive pleasure from creation, resources for creation were provided, allowing humans to utilize these resources to create everything they need for their own lives. As a result, people spend their entire lives busily creating, building houses, cars, wealth, inventing machines, tools, food, and so on. In this way, the entire universe becomes filled with vitality, joy, and meaning. Now, let's consider whether the speculation and imagination I presented earlier align with the laws and facts of the universe. Actually, this is not mere speculation and imagination. It is the process of the birth of the universe and life itself. This process tells us that all gods were created by the greatest creator, all humans were created by the gods, and all other species were created by angels or celestial beings. Houses, cars, machines, tools, and everyday objects are all creations of humans. Based on the facts and logical reasoning described in the Bible, we can conclude that humans were not created directly by the greatest creator. What value does this information hold? It means that humans should no longer attribute all the negative or even evil things in the world to the greatest creator's creation. The cruel laws of the animal kingdom are not the creations of the greatest creator. Creation is the source of all happiness. If you want to experience joy and find meaning and value in life, then go forth and create.
上帝是第一生产力。
The greatest creator is the primary productive force. Xiefeng, April 26, 2012. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. There is a misunderstanding in human thinking that to achieve the most ideal society, such as communism, firstly the productive forces must be highly developed, and then the products must be greatly enriched. Therefore, it is believed that only by accelerating economic construction and vigorously developing productive forces can communism be realized. As for the standard of highly developed productivity, some people define it as the production of material by machines or some higher-level technical means completely replacing people is a sign of the level of productivity in a communist society. In order to achieve this level of productivity, someone has proposed science and technology are the primary productive forces. These understandings are of course wrong. The realization of the most ideal society of mankind, such as communism, may have something to do with the development or underdevelopment of productive forces, but it doesn't matter much. It may have something to do with whether the product is extremely valuable, but it doesn't matter much either. Facts speak louder than words. In the complete realization and continuous development of a communist society, the second home of Life Genuine doesn't at all lie in the level of productivity and development in the traditional sense, but it fundamentally depends on the state of mind of each member, and this state of mind depends on whether one is walking on the way of the greatest creator, and whether one recognizes that the greatest creator is the primary productive force. In the second home, there are only simple hand tools, and the average cultural level of the people is at the junior high school level. The products, far from being abundantly diverse, are rather plain. Apart from basic vegetables, eggs, flour, rice, and cooking oil. And some daily necessities available in the market, there are no other items. However, everyone lives together happily, joyfully, freely, and blessedly, and their behavior is highly civilized and courteous. Why is that? This is because we realize that the greatest creator is the primary productive force and the source of happiness. As long as we follow the way of the greatest creator and hold his hand tightly, we will have everything and our happiness will be boundless. Just think about it. What makes the fruit tree bear fruit? What makes vegetables and wheat grow and bear fruit? What makes the rain spread all over the earth to nourish all things? What makes a hen lay an egg and hatch a chick? What power makes a fertilized egg grow into a healthy chicken? What makes sheep grow wool for our utilization? What makes cows produce milk for drinking to our heart's content? What makes the spring water sparkling, the clear river flowing, to irrigate the fertile land? All this is from the greatest creator. The greatest creator is the primary productive force. No matter how we irrigate fertile fields, by digging wells, diverting ditches, drawing river water, or carrying water with buckets, it will never be as good as the rain falling from the sky. A drizzle waters the mountains and the earth and moisturizes the growth of all things. How easy it is, how satisfied we are. Haven't you realized that the greatest creator is the primary productive force? On the macro level, we must rely on the greatest creator. As long as we seek the kingdom of the greatest creator and walk on the way of the greatest creator, then we don't have to worry about life being insecure, not being able to live a good life, or not having a good future. Let us trust the greatest creator. Let us praise and eulogize the greatest creator with all our hearts, minds, and strength. Let us melt into the way of the greatest creator. Let us be with the greatest creator. A better life and a better future will then belong to us.
10. 生物基因工程万魔正在出动。
All the devils are coming out of caves. Xiefeng, edited by Kair. There is no doubt that the genetic engineering now underway is of epic significance and its future is immeasurable. But when we are complacent and blindly optimistic about it, believing that each moo of a field can produce 10,000 gene of grains and each fruit tree can produce 10,000 gene of fruits, that tomatoes can be bigger than watermelons and peaches can be sweeter than honey, that pigs can weigh 100 kilograms after only half a month's growth and skin and organs can be reproduced, that a new kind of medicine will satisfy people's need for food for 3 months and needed species can be cloned, and that diseases can be eradicated and cancer can be conquered to make people enjoy unlimited longevity, who would imagine that all the devils are coming out of the caves and that we might be facing doom at any time? Genetic codes are the golden locks that maintain the relative ecological balance and stability of nature, and that prevent the devils from coming out of the caves. But once they are unlocked, the following scenes are not just to scare you because they could happen at any time. You wake up to find that some people around you have grown tails and that their features and voices have changed because they have eaten animal meat from mutant genes. You call a friend who is thousands kilometers away, but only hear chirp chirp noises coming out of your phone. You do not know that your friend has grown feathers and a beak from his mouth because he has eaten poultry or bird meat with mutant genes. You and your guests are happily drinking tea and chatting in the living room when suddenly hundreds of cockroaches, bigger than eagles, crawl in from the kitchen because they have drunk water contaminated by specific genes. You are driving your family in your car when suddenly the road ahead disappears as tens and thousands of hills rise before you. It turns out that potatoes have absorbed the soil nutrients contaminated by specific genes and are growing wildly like hills. You are sleeping soundly one night when you are suddenly awakened by the sounds of walls collapsing and sharp screams. So you open the windows and see hundreds of large rats, bigger than dogs, running through the yard and staring at you covetously. You come home from work and turn on a national television channel to watch the news, but no matter which channel you tune to, you find nothing, not even test patterns. In fact, the country has been infected with a gene that has rapidly mutated and spread, and everyone has gone mad and died within hours. You see plants growing wildly one day and learn that their reproduction and growth rates have grown faster than ants running. They spread over highways and bridges, climb mountains, float across rivers, occupy towns and cities, climb up tall trees and skyscrapers, and enter into caves and buildings, sweeping through to the ends of the earth. In places where they reach, from hill to hill no bird in flight, from path to path no man in sight. The devils are out of the caves and strange things will happen. The mortal world is no longer the one that we have known. People do not look like human, wolves are not wolf-like, and some plants grow wildly as some animals die instantly. At this point, any regrets are much too late. Perhaps people believe that through the efforts of scientists from different places, we will be able to handle the issues of genetic engineering rationally and cautiously and will not act recklessly. We can only hope. The point is that no one can be so sure that they have mastered all the secrets of gene interactions and can guarantee that there will not be gene hackers. Computer hackers can only crack passwords and disrupt programs, but gene hackers could push all of us into an abyss. In order to protect nature's ecological balance and in order to maintain our survival and development, we hope that governments and scientists who are involved with bioengineering will be extremely cautious. It would be better to suspend its development for a century than to act recklessly or to compete with each other for the most radical and extreme advancements. We must avoid catastrophes that are waiting to happen.
民主是平庸者们的追求。
Democracy is the pursuit of mediocrity. Xiefeng, June 23th, 2011. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Three cobblers could never exceed Zhuge Liang. Neither 3,000 nor even 30,000 cobblers could outweed him. When critical decisions are to be made, an individual of lofty vision and great strategies can outperform the collective decisions of tens of thousands of the mediocre. Democracy leads to mediocrity and to dead ends. We can illustrate this point by the several ups and downs of Chairman Mao Zedong during early 20th century Chinese history. June 1929. In the 7th CPC National Congress of the 4th Red Army held in western Fujian, Mao Zedong was forced to leave his position of the Frontline Committee Secretary of the 4th Red Army. November 1931. In the Southern Jiangxi meeting held in Yeping, Ruijin, Chairman Mao was mistakenly criticized by the party and was elbowed out of the Central Committee during the Soviet era. October 1932. At the Ningdu meeting, the chairman was excluded aside again and even lost his post of political commissar of the First Red Army. January 1934. During the Second Congress of the Soviet era, he was made a mere figurehead and removed from his position as chairman of the Central People's Committee. The result of these demotions was the gradual shrinking of red bases and the revolution ushered low tide, resulting in the failure of the Fifth Counter-Campaign against encirclement and suppression. The Red Army was forced to make a strategic shift to start the solemn and stirring move in the war history of mankind, the 25,000 Li Long March. The central base, personally created by Mao Zedong, was destroyed overnight. The whole universe is run in a unilateral manner under the one, unique, greatest creator. It is only when all life in the universe follows the will of the greatest creator that the universe can run orderly and all life can survive and live effectively. In any other way, the universe would collapse. If a cat or dog were not convinced and cried out, "Oh, greatest creator," you have been too autocratic and domineering. The throne of the greatest creator should be shared in turns, and the greatest creator should be chosen by democratic elections from the whole universe. Then all would disappear. As it is with Life Genuine. If the guide were to be decided through a democratic election and if I were not elected as such, then Life Genuine would inevitably dissolve. And if that were to happen, the hopes and dreams of all the Chanyuan Celestials would become impossible to achieve. Napoleon famously said, "Nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide." It is only when the chief commander makes the decisions that they can be effective and orderly. The sage embraces the one and becomes the model of the world. The greatest creator is the one in the universe. The state leader is the one in the government. The boss is the one in a company. The conductor is the one in an orchestra. This is the model of the world, and sages must comply with it. Whoever creates a business should be the boss, with all big and small decisions being made by or delegated by that boss. Question: what types of people want democracy? Answer: 8 of those types are described here. Irresponsible people, people with mediocre minds, people who scramble for power, people who do things stealthily, people who are selfish, people who shift responsibilities, people without definite views of their own, profiteers from others' labor without sacrificing. All matters, big and small, must be managed by responsible individuals. They should be the ones to make decisions within the scope of their responsibilities. There should be no arguments, debates, discussions, or consensuses. Whenever two or more people jointly control anything, the result becomes a resource-consuming process with low efficiency and mutual finger-pointing with no one ultimately being held responsible. No matter how democratic a flock of sheep is, it can never resist a wolf. No matter how democratic a group of people with mediocre wisdom is, it can never match the vision and insight of a saint. The Life Genuine era does not practice democracy, but each one has their duty and accountability. Like the eight immortals crossing the sea, each one shows his or her special prowess. Each undertaking is in the hands of one responsible person. Others should cooperate fully and follow the exact requirements of the one in charge strictly and meticulously. If a leader cannot control their rule, but decides every affair through compromises and consolidations, then they are not being responsible and are incapable of assuming their responsibility. They are consuming and wasting everyone's time and energy, as well as their natural and human resources. Democracy always leads to mediocrity, and the wise should guard against that. But what should we do when a leader is self-willed, domineers their power, and exercises tyranny?